Good evening, everyone. Staff Sergeant Christian Delisle here. Thank you for joining us tonight for the Edson RCMP Zoom Town Hall. It is a first for me. I have done many town halls, but never through Zoom. So thank you for joining us. Tonight, what I would like to do is to basically talk with the population, the community, about policing, our service that we're providing, talk about the stats, and then most importantly, get some of your feedback. And we'll have a question for period and basically give you a chance to ask questions regarding our stats, what the policing is doing here in Edson, if you have any questions in regards to our priorities and what you would like us to see moving forward. We'd like us to do moving forward. So I will start by introducing myself and giving you a little bit of my background. So I joined the RCMP in 2000. I'm originally from Gatineau, Quebec. I have 20 years service. My first posting was in Cochrane. Then I transferred to Musqueam. Then I promoted to Wetaskiwin as a watch supervisor. In Wetaskiwin, then promoted to Drayton Valley. In Drayton Valley, I was the Sergeant, Ops and CO in charge of operations. Then I ran the detachment for a year. And after my time in Drayton Valley, I was able to get a transfer into Edmonton to our headquarters, K Division headquarters. In Edmonton, I worked as a planning analyst, member with the Operation Strategy Branch. In Operation Strategy Branch, basically the focus of that unit is to prepare, analyze the administrative side of the RCMP. So anything that has to do with strategies, priorities, budget, relationship with municipalities, with the government, with partner agencies. That was basically the meat and potato of this unit. After 4 years, I applied to promote for a Detachment Commander job, applied for the Edson detachment, and got the job, and here I am. I arrived here in June, in the middle of a pandemic. That does not come without some challenges, but the detachment was well prepared. I have a full complement of members, and here I am tonight. So if I were to talk about our staffing, so the Edson detachment has 23 officers, so 17 municipal and 16 provincial. We are supported by 6.5 support staff positions. 4.5 of those are paid by the municipality, and the other 2 are provincial positions. Like I mentioned, all my positions are staffed. I currently have 1 person that is on maternity leave and 1 unfortunately suspended. But with that being said, all the positions are filled. We are sufficiently staffed, to meet the challenges that we're facing here in Edson. In terms of call for service or numbers of calls. So if I look at numbers from 2019, so basically the Edson detachment received a total of 6,258 calls for service. 60% of this, so about 3,795, were from the municipality. The calls that we're getting in Edson, I would categorize them for the most part as disturbance calls. And in that disturbance category, there's like 3 kind of subcategories. The main one is what we call a mental health calls. So people in crisis, people needing assistance, people having difficulties, lost, confused. We get a fair amount of call for service of that nature. We also get a good amount of call for regarding property crime. And all this is kind of fueled a little bit with the third type of calls that we get. It's drug related. So the drug world kind of feed a little bit that mental health situation in the property crime. In terms of violence in Drayton Valley for violence calls, they would only rank as a number 5 on the top 10 calls for service that we usually get. So Edson is a safe community. I've worked in other detachment, like I mentioned earlier, and comparing other communities and talking to my co-workers in other detachment, Edson is a very safe community. The violent crimes that we see, the majority are family related. We'll have a dispute between couples. We'll have brother-sister fightings. I'm not saying that we don't have the odd time an assault outside a bar or something like that, but those are far and few in between. So that's good news. In terms of strategies that we have right now at the detachment for the town of Edson, it's under what we call our annual performance plan, or APP. There's a consultation that is done at the beginning of the year. This year, it was a little bit more difficult to do the consultation due to COVID. But Sergeant Kevin Gall, who was the acting detachment commander at the time, was able to still reach out to council and some groups in the community. And the two priorities that we have, first one is crime reduction, and the second one is basically public engagement or community engagement. And under those two priorities, we're one, addressing the three kind of main problems that I identified earlier in the town of Edson, and in regards to community engagement, well, things like I'm doing tonight, Zoom town hall, partnership with different agencies in town, building bridges and liaison with organizations and people in the community in order to address some of the challenges that we have and that you would like us to take care of. Yes, and just to give you some numbers, like in general, in regards to our priorities. When we talk crime reduction, for the last quarter, if we look at the municipality of Edson, we saw a reduction of about 40% of property crime compared to the last quarter last year. So it's good news. And our clearance rate overall for the last quarter for property crime was about 25%. Someone would say that seems like a low number. Property crime is in general, or by definition, difficult to solve, just because that the victim is not always there to witness the crime, and therefore the work that is needed to identify someone, be able to have enough evidence and then bring this matter to court and get a conviction is a little bit harder than versus a crime against a person, let's say, where the victim, for the majority of the cases, is aware of what's going on and see the person who's assaulting them, and then is able to, for example, give us a statement and report to the police, and then, help us in the process to clear the incident. So that's the difference between the two. So now if I look at more specific statistics for the town of Edson, so what I brought with me, it's this crime statistics for the year of 2020 from January to September. The numbers that I have in front of me, I can have it year by year, but what I would like to talk about, to give you an example of where we're at, is basically comparing 2020 to 2019 and see where we're at. So there's three big categories. The first one is crime against person. So we're talking, robbery, sexual assaults, criminal harassment, threats, crimes of that nature. And if I look at the statistics for the town of Edson from January to September 2020, we are 39% higher than the previous year. If we look at the difference between 2016 to 2020, there's a difference of 11%. So we are right now seeing a slight increase in person crime. Again, someone would say that, oh, this is an indication that the town is getting more violent. It is not. The majority of those, again, are family related. The big increase is when we look at assaults and othering threats, and usually those are family related. when I review the files on a daily basis, when I see an assault file or a file where we're talking about threats, it is from a family-related incident. Now, if I look back at this other category, the second one, it's property crime. In that category, if we look at the stats between 2020 versus 2019, we see a decrease of 9%. So we're doing pretty good in that area. Although if I look comparing 2016 to 2020, we see an increase of about 10%. So basically what has brought the number up lately, it's the fires that we got along, don't quote me here, but I think it was along Fifth Avenue there in the back alley. So that rose that number to 60 because we were at 5 in 2019, and the last 3 that we got there brought the numbers to 8, so an increase of 60%. So that's why the number was a little higher. But overall, we're still at 9% less than last year. So that's good news. And the last categories, it's other criminal code. So offensive weapons, disturbing the peace, fail to comply. We see an overall decrease of 43% in that category. Just for information, when I'm talking in Mental Health Act calls, so just to give you an idea, so if I look at the difference between 2019 and 2020, we have an 80% increase in that area. So for example, in 2019, we had 60 calls from January to September, and now we're at 108. Can we attribute this to possibly COVID, the economy, possibly, but still, it's a fairly large number, and that is something that we are working on and see what we can do, what kind of strategies, who we can engage with in order to address and reduce the numbers of calls in that category. So I will leave the statistic for now. And we can always come back to them if there's any questions in regards to the statistics. I'm just going to talk about a few other points quickly, and then I will kind of open the town hall for questions and comment. Some sort of a non-formal format. If you have questions relating to any of our services, statistics, or what I'm talking about, please feel free to ask. But just before we do this, I want to talk about the Alberta online reporting that was put in motion not too long ago. Basically, one thing that is very important for us in order to prepare strategies, decide on what would be our next move, or if we are to prepare or organize an operation plans to address a certain problem, is the statistics that we have. And they're based on the calls that we're receiving. So in order to assist in that area, the RCMP launched the Alberta RCMP online reporting. And it's very easy to find. I actually tried on my cell phone. So if you have a cell phone or a tablet, you basically just have to Google Alberta RCMP online reporting. And if I remember right, it's one of the first item that come up. Basically, you click on that link. And what this is for, it's for the complaints that the people are sometimes reluctant to call in, thinking that, oh, it's not important enough, or, you know, oh, the RCMP cannot do anything because there's no witness. That information is actually very valuable for us. Like I said, it helps us to strategize and decide, you know, where and what we can do to address some of the issues in the community. And who knows, it might be one of those complaints that will give us information and help us to solve something bigger. So it's pretty self-explanatory how to use the website, but in a nutshell, that website is for calls for damage to property, mischief that are under $5,000, you know, a theft of a bicycle under $5,000, theft of property under $5,000, a theft of a motor vehicle under $5,000, lost property, things like this. And then they have to satisfy a few conditions. So a call that there's no suspect or no witnesses. Again, that a call where the value of the item stolen is less than 5,000, or that the repairs of something that was vandalized less than 5,000. It cannot involve anything where there would be personal identity, firearms, license plate, or if we're talking about person crimes, then it cannot be reported in that way, because these we want an actual call for service, because there is probably something that we can look into. But if you're unfortunately the victim of one of those crimes that would fall under those categories, I would strongly suggest that you use that online reporting system. A file is created. There will be someone from the Edmonton headquarters that will give you a call back just to satisfy a few questions and make sure that we're looking after this file properly. And then we will get at the Edson detachment the stats, and then we will be able to put that into our statistics, and then have a better picture of what's going on in the community. To be quite honest, at this point, I think I will open the floor for some questions, and this will generate some discussion. And again, feel free to come back or ask questions about the stats or any other things that you would like to discuss. It will be difficult for me to talk about specific cases. If you do have a question about a specific case, I will provide you with my email address, and this is something I can certainly talk with you on a more private setting, and then I will have access to like our data bank, and I'll be able to look at the file and able to answer your questions. But if not, let's start with the questions. And yes.
All right, so for anybody in our Zoom meeting, please use the raise your hand feature, and then we will unmute your mic. And if anybody's watching on Facebook, you can type in your question.
So in the meantime, I have some statistics in regards to the RCMP in Alberta in general. Fun facts. So basically, in 2019, the RCMP had 4.3 million contact with the population. The RCMP in Alberta serve a population of 1.8 million, so 935,000 through our municipal contracts, and then 900,000 through our provincial police service contract. Employees. So basically the RCMP employs 4,555 people. We have 3,014 regular members. So 1,643 would fall under our provincial contract, and 1,371 would fall under the municipal contract. Fun fact, we have 1,020 frontline vehicles. So if anybody wants to know how many police cars we have in Alberta, that's how many. We have 37 watercraft all across the province, 22 police dogs. And last year, Alberta received 285 cadet from depot.
Okay, we do have a question here from Samantha.
Yes.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, yes, I was just wondering, what is the priority for the RCMP to be in the residential areas to ensure that there's not a lot of like high speeding vehicles? I just noticed in my area, there's quite a lot of people racing down the roads. At times it's a little dangerous for people who are walking, kind of by the hospital area with that traffic circle.
Yes.
Sometimes they don't really obey that there. I've seen people almost get hit. I'm just wondering if that's a priority.
So traffic enforcement, road safety is a mandate that we have to cover. It is not part of our annual performance plan, but this doesn't mean that we're not looking after this. So if I look at the overall collision rate that we have in Edson, it's pretty low. So we're not on a daily basis actively trying to write tickets and enforce traffic, although we are patrolling around. Now, if you're mentioning that there's a problem area and we should spend a little bit more attention to that area, well, first, thank you for letting me know. And then we can certainly increase our presence in that area. And then if we need to, like, increase the enforcement.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, we did have a question on Facebook from Christy. What is your strategy for addressing homelessness in Edson?
Yes, so good question and good timing. Homelessness is part of this disturbance that I was talking about. Yes, it is something that we want to address. It is a very complex situation. It does have homelessness does not happen just like this. It's multiple factors. And then today I was actually on a meeting with a group of people looking at what we can do and what kind of step we can put in place in order to address it. So one of the strategies and one of the comments that were mentioned during the meeting was that when the homeless, when these people are somewhat looked after, and when they have some avenues where they can get a little bit of help, usually their conditions improve. So social workers in town here have told me, like, they see a marked departure in the behavior and how they present themselves when they have, for example, a place to sleep at night. They're like everybody. When we don't have a good night of sleep, then we're a little bit more groggy and maybe a little bit more difficult to deal with, therefore causing maybe more disturbance in their case. So we're looking at what we can do, who we can work with. Certainly difficult to address because having some difficulties in being homeless is not illegal. Therefore, the police cannot just, enforce and target these people on that basis. But now the key here is to work with the services that are available and try to provide assistance, help, guidance to the one that are willing to accept those services, and then redirect them to services and places where they can improve their life quality, maybe have a bit of more of a regular life pattern in town here that are not causing so much problems in the community. So we are at the beginning of looking at some strategies, but definitely looking at something where they can stay, where we can support them, offer some services. That's basically what we're working on right now.
Okay, just a reminder for everybody in the Zoom meeting, just you click on the raise hand button if you have a question, and anybody on Facebook can just type it in the comments. Not really a question, but Mike had a concern with the amount of time being used to stop speeders rather than stopping crime.
If you can help me here and write back a question as to, are you feeling that we're writing too many tickets in town? Because I can tell you my members it's not what they're focusing the majority of their time. I can tell you that the majority of their time is to patrol, respond to calls, and investigate those calls. The odd times we have to enforce traffic because road safety, like I mentioned, is part of our mandate. But I can assure you the majority of the time of the members of the detachment are spent to work on investigating crimes.
All right, we have nothing else in the queue at the moment.
Okay. So while we're waiting for other questions, I can certainly go through other crime statistics. So call for services. So in 2019, call that were made through 911, 233,000 calls were placed through 911. And then to our dispatcher, and we have two centers, one in Edmonton that looks after the north of the province and one that looks in Red Deer that looks after the south of the province. 930,000 calls for service were placed through the what we call our OCC, Operational Communication Center.
So we have a question here. How does Edson Detachment interact with the other detachments for solving property crime? From the Barhead area, it becomes evident that detachments don't seem to talk across county lines.
So I would say we do. Can we do it more? Absolutely. But we are familiar with some of the traveling criminals that are, frequenting our area, and we are in communication with other detachments. Now, the computer system that we use, it's called PROS, it has the capability, or basically naturally links everything together. So basically, when I enter a suspicious person on file, when I click on that person, I'm able to see where that person had other, files. So then I can, basically see if they were in neighboring detachments or not, what type of crimes they have committed in the past, and then with that information, then I can, if I need to, call the neighboring detachment and work with them. We don't have joint operation on a regular basis, but we do on the occasion have to work with other detachment to solve crimes. Absolutely.
Okay, there was also some concerns on who and what locations they respond to. Had a neighbor that lived on county lines get bounced around between 3 detachments.
Yes, so I heard that before, not here, but at a previous detachment where I was, that when you're like living on the boundary, you call the police and basically says, oh, it's Edson, and then Edson calls, says, no, it's Hinton, and then no, it's Barhead or White Court. My answer to this, if you're having this problem, please, obviously at the time it'll be difficult to do, but afterwards, please give me a call. The simple rule on this one is basically, let's go and let's figure it out after. If there's an emergency happening at your residence on your property and you need the police, it's not the time to start, fighting over boundaries. Let's have a police car rolling. And as we're going there, if another detachment happens to be going, then there'll be 2 police officers going. I don't think it's a problem. And then down the road, if we need to figure out who you should be calling in the future, that can be determined. But at the time, if this is a problem, please, I would like to be aware of this, as it's very simple. Like if we get a call and we think it might be in our area, let's go to the call.
All right, if anybody has any more questions, please use the raise hand feature in Zoom or type them out in the comments of our Facebook post.
I'm going to run out of statistics, but I still have a few. So 2019, numbers of files. So in Alberta, we had 126,000 property files, 37,000, almost 38,000 person crime files, almost 400,000 traffic related files, 263,000 people charged, 215,000 criminal code investigation initiated, 56 homicide initiated, 55,000 motor vehicle collision reported, and 5,000, just over 5,000 reported injury collisions.
Okay, Scotty from Facebook says he just wants to touch again on if we're seeing higher or lower crime statistics than previous years and how the economy is affecting that.
Yes. So overall, the overall trend is lower. Now, policing is what I call an inaccurate science. Right now, the trend could be going down, but then all of a sudden we could have someone who, for example, is being released from jail, who is a prolific offender, very good at break and enters, and then all of a sudden comes back into the community after serving a period of time in jail. And then even though the crime is on the lower trend, starts breaking into garages and sheds, and then basically makes the statistic going up. So sometimes it's difficult to have control over the statistics because of that reason, but overall, we see a downward movements of the statistics. Now, is it linked to the economy? I want to say yes, although I'm not basing this on any scientific explanation, but just the fact that if there's a little bit less, activities, if there's a little bit less of a transient population, if there's a little bit less of vehicle, let's say parked at the hotels and motels parking lot, then there's less chance of crime. So that could be an explanation. That's yes, that's about the explanation I could have right now in regards to crime versus economy.
Okay, how is the current situation in Edson regarding some consistent repeat offenders?
So we are tracking our repeat offenders. We basically know the majority of them. If they are on curfew or if they have conditions, we are trying to the best of our abilities to confirm and verify with them that they're abiding by those conditions and curfews. And then it's a matter of being proactive from our end and from time to time to patrol around and look for them and keeping tabs on what they're doing. Right now, I don't have the specific number. We do not have currently someone who's prolific and active in the area where we have noticed a trend, where we have noticed a need to follow or surveil someone specifically, but we're certainly keeping an eye open in case this is happening.
Okay, Mandy from Facebook asks, how do you feel the response times are for the detachment, and are there major delays if calls are rerouted from Edmonton?
Good question. So my answer will be, I think that they're good because I did not hear anybody complaining about our response time. Now, if someone feels that our response time was not adequate, please feel free to contact me at the detachment. I would like to hear about it. There is a bit of a delay with the dispatch system, and it's not that we want to have that delay. It's because it's the way the system is built. So being in Edson, when you call the police, you're calling, and I'm talking after hours. If you call during 8 to 5, the detachment, it's someone right at the detachment that will pick up the phone, but I'm talking after hours. The call is rerouted to Edmonton, and there's a call taker. That person will get some information. Then this information is passed to a dispatcher. Now there's a limited numbers of dispatchers. So if, let's say, the call is on a Saturday night and it's a very busy Saturday night, that call might have to wait before it hits a dispatcher and then being dispatched to us. And then once the call is dispatched to us, then a member takes it to the detachment, and depending on the location, if there's some driving time, that could also add to this response time. Now, with that being said, what we call a priority one call. So, a crime in progress, someone is breaking into your house. This process is expedite. You will have a dispatcher available right away. This call will be dispatched to us as quickly as possible, and we'll be on our way right away. But if it's, let's say, for example, a vehicle that was vandalized, you're reporting it, and there's one or two other calls in the queue, you might have to wait a little bit, unfortunately.
Okay, from Zoom, what are your suggestions for rural homeowners right now to keep their properties safe within the scope of the law? And just a question regarding the legality of having a camera that faces the road and recording plates.
Yes, so good question. So the basics, make sure you have all your doors locked when you leave your property. Make sure that all your vehicles are locked, that there's no valuable left outside. So basically, don't make it tempting for a criminal to come to your residence. There's also the preventing crime through environmental design. If it is possible, to have your residence, your property lit at night. It helps. If there's not a lot of trees prevent it, like blocking the view from the street, where criminals would have, the luxury of being hidden behind a tree when they try to break into your house, that helps as well. Neighborhood watch, know your neighbors, looking after each other, knowing when your neighbor is gone, and then paying attention to what's going on his property, which and everything I'm saying right now I know is being done on a daily basis, and we do get a lot of calls from neighbors saying, hey, my neighbor's gone and there's a vehicle there, it's suspicious. So all this is being done, but it is also effective, and that's why I'm repeating this. Is these are some of the good things to do to protect yourself. Sorry, I forgot the second part of the question.
In regards to having a camera.
Oh, camera, yes. So it is not illegal to have a camera that films your property. Now, where it becomes a bit of a gray area is so when the camera is kind of pointed in a certain way that actually films your neighbors, or that's where like it's getting a little bit gray. Like, someone could question, or even your neighbor could question, like, why is all of a sudden this camera is only filming half your driveway and my front lawn? But no, the fact that a camera is on your property, is filming down the street, and would catch a license plate as they drive by, that is not illegal. And sometimes we will use that information to try to solve or investigate crimes.
Okay, we have a question from Marsha on Facebook. Do you think it would be advantageous to publish names and photos of people charged with crimes in our area, more to keep people aware, or would that create vigilantism?
Good question, and I don't know. It doesn't seem to be a practice done anywhere, except the odd time you will have, and you'll see it on the news, serious offender that is being released will have a picture and then his name and then the location where it's being released. I don't know what to answer. I can totally see some of the benefit of this, and then I can also see what the person mentioned, some vigilante and whatnot. So yeah, no, I really don't have an answer for that one.
Okay, Jessica on Facebook wants to know, is there any parts of town that break and enters are more prevalent?
Good question again. We did talk about this just before the Zoom meeting. The short answer is no. So the majority of there's no neighborhood in particular that is more prone to criminality than others. The area that we get the most call for service will be I would call it the Highway 16 corridor, like from the 2nd Avenue to 5th Avenue. Just by the nature that there's more traffic going through that street, there's a lot of businesses, so it's buzzing with people. So that just in nature will generate more calls. But there's no specific areas, although sometimes when I'm looking at the statistics and looking at the calls in the morning, I do see that if there is to be a break and enter into a shed or a garage, that section just north of Highway 16 seems to be coming up just a little bit more than any others. Again, no trend, nothing where there's an indication where we need to all of a sudden have like an action plan or focus more, but maybe just few more calls than the other locations.
Okay, I'm not sure if you'll be able to answer this, but Elizabeth asked, why doesn't the Alberta's Most Wanted that is published every week on the RCMP social media include what types of crimes that they commit or what they're wanted for? A lot of people live in our area, but incomplete information doesn't help.
Yeah, again, another good question. I don't know the answer. Probably has to do with privacy laws and what we can and cannot disclose. That would be my guess. Yeah, I'm sorry, I really don't know the answer of that question. Yeah.
Okay, that's all we have in queue at the moment. If anybody has any final questions, please let us know. Marcia asks, are you seeing a rise of people driving under the influence of cannabis since it became legal?
I will have to say the answer would be no. There are the odd cases, but to say that all of a sudden it became a big problem, or that we're seeing, let's say, the same amount as, under the influence of alcohol, I will have to say no. I did not see this trend. It's a good question, though.
While we're waiting, just how has COVID impacted the way that policing is taking place?
Yeah, good question. So it reduced our service at the front counter. So our business hours, if I can call them like that, are like from 10 to 2. Although it seems to be adequate as we're able to provide the service that is required. Now, in terms of responding to calls, it does come with some challenges. We have to somewhat ascertain that if are we dealing with someone that has COVID or potentially with COVID, and then the wearing of a mask, should we have it or not? Is it a safety issue for us to have it? Are they going to be able to hear it or not, to hear us talking or not? So it does bring some challenges like this. Overall, I think we're dealing with it very well, but it is a bit of a challenge. I agree.
Natalie just wanted to welcome you to Edson. Glad you're here, and thanks for all that you do. We've had some pro RCMP comments on our Facebook as well.
Well, thank you very much, and I'm really happy to be here. Very welcoming community. Yes, it's a little gem, and I don't know if I should say it because it's on Facebook and on YouTube. Let's keep our secret. No, lots of nice trails and things to do around here. So no, thank you very much.
All right, and I think that's all we've got.
That's all we've got. Any other questions?
Do you want to give out your email address?
Yes, so that's a good idea. So basically my email address is christian.delisle, and I'll spell it also, christian.delisle at rcmp-grc.gc.ca. So Christian is CHRISTIAN.DELISLE at rcmp-grc.gc.ca. Any questions, any concern, anything you would like to talk about, please send me an email, call the office. I am available. It'll be my pleasure to answer all the questions that you have. Any concerns, please let me know. And before we conclude the Zoom meeting here, looking forward to do this again in person when COVID is over. But around the January mark next year, it's part of our annual performance plan is to have meetings like this and talk to the community and get their feedback on what the priority should be for the community for the upcoming year. So please stay tuned. That is something else that we will do around January. Have another meeting, hopefully in person, probably through Zoom, where your input will be requested in order for us to formulate our plan for the upcoming year.
We did have a question about staffing.
Yes.
We're fully staffed. Do other area detachments rely on you to assist with calls? And does that impact your staffing if other detachments are short?
That's a good question. So I can tell you, talking with the commander in Edson yesterday, they are fully staffed as well. So, and talking with Evansburg on the other side, I don't remember. He mentioned that they were almost fully staffed. I think he's short one member, although there are only 6 there. So when one member is down, it affects them a lot more than for example, us. We do assist neighboring detachment on occasion. It has never impacted our service delivery. If it's a matter where we need to actually have the member go there for a prolonged period of time, then we can call someone on overtime if we need to ensure that we have the proper service delivery here in the area. It's never been a problem.
We have a question about the specialized services at the Edson Detachment, traffic,
Yes.
ident, and GIS.
Yes.
Can you explain that a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. So we are fortunate in Edson. It's a bit of a hub for the area. So we have the detachment members, so the 23 members that I was talking about. We also have a traffic section. Now, and the corporal there will not be happy with me, but I don't know how many members he has. I want to say it's about 6, and right now he's close to be fully staffed. So these are not members assigned to the Edson detachment, but they are members that are working out of our office. So we do get the benefit of having them here. They have helped us on many calls, coming and assist us and being backup officers and traveling in and out of the detachment while they're through our area. Therefore, if they see something, they can intervene, and then also, helping enforcing traffic laws and maintaining safe roads around here. So we thank them for that. We also have the FIS, so Forensic Identification Section. So these are the people that are basically looking after the specialized examination of crime scenes. So the familiar name for this would be the CSI guys, and I'm sure they don't like to be called like that, but all the fingerprints, taking the pictures, analyzing exhibits that were seized and whatnot. So we have a section of 3 members here in Edson, and again, they are covering the area here. And we also have GIS, so General Investigation Section. GIS is part of the Edson detachment. They are part of the 23 members. So basically they are, in other words, like the detectives in Edson. So when we have more serious files, they're the one that will take the lead, either assist the members of the detachment on their investigation or completely take the lead and investigate the files. For example, the 2 large fires that we got, the 2 dealerships, the file was basically taken over by GIS, and they were the one leading the investigation and actually doing the majority of the investigation on those 2 files. So that's a good example of what they can do. We will utilize their services for some operations, for some surveillance, when we want to target or look at a certain prolific offender, a certain location where we need to spend a little bit more time working the area and not be disturbed by call taking. These will be the people that will look after that.
This may be more bylaw related, but Chris just wanted to know about loose dogs being an issue in town, and if you guys deal with that at all.
So again, looking at the files that we get on a daily basis, I will have to say that is not a problem. Maybe the bylaw officer will be in a better position to answer that questions, as they are probably the one getting the calls through the town. But in terms of the RCMP getting a call for service for that, I don't even recall seeing one complaint like that. I'm not saying that there was none, but I don't recall seeing any.
And how can the community help the police, and how can we protect ourselves from theft?
Okay. How can you help us? Few ways. First of all, please, if you think something is not right, look suspicious, you're witnessing a crime, please call us. No crime is too small. Again, what I mentioned, the more statistics that we have, the better we are, the better capability we have to analyze what's going on and then dispatch our resources where it's the most needed. So that's number one. Other ways to help us. So there's few committees in town or organization, volunteers that are helping us on a regular basis. I will mention, for example, COP. Group of people driving around, being an extra set of eyes for us on the road. It's amazing what they see and what they report to us and what we can achieve through this. Sometimes it could be just a suspicious vehicles and boom, it was an impaired driver, things like this. In other detachment, working with COP again, example where they were seeing people crawling through windows and we were able to get there faster and then arrest people like in the middle of a break and enter. So COP would be a good example. any groups that is trying to work and find a solution with the homelessness situation in Edson would be a way to help us too. It is a problem and we're trying to find a solution, and it's a very complex situation. So if you have time to volunteer, if you have connections, always welcome. And the other part is basically to protect yourself from thefts. Again, the basic locking your doors, not leaving any property in plain view, knowing your neighbors, all the practices that we know, and sometimes in a hurry or life goes on that sometimes we may forget or whatnot. But if we're diligent, we get results by doing this. But definitely number one, calling us every time there's something suspicious.
All right, that was our final question.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for the questions. Very good questions. Looking forward to do this again. Like I said, probably in January, when it's time to consult the community as to what would be the priorities that you would like us to work with. And the invitation again, if you have a questions, comment, or would like to know more about what we're doing, you have my email address. You know where I work, and please come and see me, and it will be my pleasure to answer your questions. Have a good evening. Thank you very much.